Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bells Must Ring podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Rice, here with my usual co host, Arnav Sarkar, and we're here to discuss Rutgers' recent game against Norfolk State, where the Knights took down the Spartans 60 to 10. It was an offensive showcase by Rutgers. Uh, Passing game looked great, running game looked great. Um, Punt block team looked great, getting two. I guess one of them wasn't really a punt block, but getting one punt fumble recovery for a touchdown, and then getting another punt block all in the first quarter. Um, yeah, I mean, offense, like I said, looked great. Calic Manis threw for over 300 yards and got a touchdown. AJ Ceres, who appeared in his first ever college game, looked great as Calic Manis's backup. He threw for two touchdowns. On the ground, the offense was humming as usual, 185 rushing yards on 46 attempts. Antoine Raymond with 16 carries for 79 yards and two touchdowns, and Jashawn Benjamin with 12 carries for 68 yards and one touchdown. Really not much to complain about on the offensive side of the ball. DT Sheffield especially did have a couple nasty drops, but you know that's going to get fixed with the kind of player that he is.
Right.
And just to highlight, KJ Duff, uh, insane catch near the goal
Oh
line.
my
Not quite
goodness.
for the touchdown, but just on the
Yeah.
sideline.
The
Insane
one-hander. Yeah.
catch.
It's like Odell-esque. As even, they noticed at SHI Stadium they did the celebrity look-alike. But that catch really was like Odell-esque. I mean, he caught it with one hand. He was able to get his back heel down. It was just like truly something terrific, sensational, whatever word you want to use. But I mean, Greg Schiano, like he was looking with the officials, and everyone was just amazed at that display of athleticism. I mean, and on top of that, the defender, Norfolk State defender, was all over him too, and he still was able to turn around, catch it with one hand, get the back heel in, and come down with it on the sideline. So just a terrific catch by KJ Duff. So yeah, I mean, a really good day offensively for Scarlet Knights. I saw something recently, like Kadek Manis has like the top PFF grade among like I think like Power 4 quarterbacks or just FBS quarterbacks in the first three games with like 50 dropbacks. So I mean he's had a sensational start to the season. This game Rutgers had over 500 yards of total offense, 378 passing yards, 185 rushing yards, 7 yards per play. So I mean just a really good offensive day. I mean the same trends that we've been seeing so far. I mean, the offensive line's winning the line of scrimmage. They're creating, space. They're blocking well. I mean, Calic Manis has just been on a tear, as I mentioned. The run game they've been getting, their yards per carry. They've been getting like 5-6 yards a carry. They're winning first and second down, making it easy for themselves. And then special teams. I mean, it's been a really special start to the season for them. The block punt. The second one was a block punt. The first one, Norfolk State's punter just mishandled it. Cod Sanders put a hit on him, and then Dylan Braithwaite was the one to actually recover that. And then Cod Sanders the second time was the one who ended up returning the block punt. Forgot who exactly blocked the second time, but yeah, I mean it was just a really
That was
good.
Jet Elad, I'm pretty
It
sure.
was I think it was Jet Elad, yeah, who had a big game because he also had an interception in that game. So yeah, right. Jet Elad with the second block returned by Cod Sanders. The first one was Cod Sanders basically laying a hit on the punter, and then Dylan Braithwaite picking up the loose ball, returning it in. So both of the top the first two special teams touchdowns, or first of the both of the first two touchdowns came on special teams. And the offense actually it kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start in this game, but that was primarily because the special teams came through in such a big way to start the game. I mean, Norfolk State couldn't really get going until like the second quarter. They put together a drive, they score, and then the offense kind of did get going. I mean, yeah, same things. I mean, we talked about the KJ Duff catch already. DT Sheffield had a nice catch for a touchdown that was negated because of offsetting penalties, but he had another big a long catch that was not for a touchdown, but it really got the offense going. And Ben Black had a nice touchdown down the sideline. Antoine Raymond, Jashawn Benjamin had two had a touchdown apiece, or rather Raymond had two, Benjamin had one, and then even in the fourth quarter, I mean AJ Cerise had a touchdown pass to Dino Kayakmanis, so both of their first passes on the collegiate or touchdown pass and reception on the collegiate level, and obviously for Ethan, his brother. I mean, he talked about the challenges his brother's gone through on Big Ten at media day. So just a memorable moment for Cerise, for Dino Kagmanis, for really the whole team, and then Michael Thomas making another acrobatic grab in the end zone for a 25-yard touchdown pass from Cerise later in the quarter. They put in Dane Pizarro, the backup kicker, basically the whole team of second and third string players pretty much got in at some point. Sean Ashenfelter got in for one, I think the last series as well, and he had one completion for 11 yards. They weren't able to get in Rocco Rainone, but they got in so many of the other players for the Scarlet Knights. But yeah, I mean that pretty much sums up the offensive day that they had. I mean, it was just more of the same, but I mean that's kind of what you expect. I mean, when you have that much of an advantage, like in the trenches at the O-line, you have that much. Your receivers are able to get separation, make those catches. Rutgers was experimenting with a lot of things. They ended up starting the game with these rollout passes to the tight ends. That was really working for them last year at certain points. I really like to see that they're getting passes to running backs. I think like 5 of 6 of the first passes were to running backs and tight ends. Then they were later on they're experimenting with a deep ball. Kagman missed the receivers a couple of times, but he got some other ones. They tried an onside kick, didn't work out, but they got the ball back. So Rutgers is definitely throwing some wrinkles in there for the Iowa game. So I mean so we'll see what ends up showing up against the Hawkeyes. But I mean, I think Rutgers obviously trying not to put too much on film, but they kind of mixed a conservative approach with them, and then later on started taking a more aggressive approach, and then the score started going up later on. But offensively, I guess my long rant short would be that like Rutgers offense had a good day, but the defense, I mean, they allowed 10 points, which is a low for them. I mean, it started with Ohio scoring 31, Miami, Ohio 17, Norfolk State 10. So, but again, Norfolk State, much lower
drastic drop in competition.
much lower level of competition. And even in the FCS, they also lost to Towson 27-7. They beat Virginia State. They came back in that game. So much much lower level of competition for Norfolk State. So even if they were really good on their level, which I don't think they are, they still really shouldn't be able to hold up against Rutgers, and they pretty much didn't. But even with that being said, the Rutgers defense did struggle in a lot of the same ways that they did in the previous two contests, and that was allowing big plays, poor tackling, poor angles. It just didn't really look good. Just a lot of big chunk plays for Norfolk State, and this is the third game where now like a non-Big Ten team has been able to do that, and I feel like it's been in different ways each time, which kind of makes it interesting. Because Ohio was kind of like chunking their way through the field, the coverage was a little bit soft, and on top of that, Navarro was like a great runner. Bangora was finding the edge too. Miami, Ohio, the deep ball started really causing problems. The coverage was off, and then in Norfolk State, it was more about on the ground. I mean, their quarterback, I think, took off for a run. Kevon King had a 25-yard touchdown. I think he had another scramble he had 7 yards for 56 carries. I mean, the other way around, excuse me. 7 carries for 56 yards, 8 yards a carry, and a touchdown. Xavier Evans, 8 carries, 52 yards, 6.5 yards per carry. I mean, that's a lot of yards per carry for a school like that, where they really should not be winning the trench battle and getting anywhere near that per carry. And I know some of that's skewed by the big plays, obviously, but that's exactly what the problem is. It's not, it's not the every down stuff. I mean, at least in this game, Rutgers was able to win a lot of those battles, get Norfolk State off the field, but these chunk plays are just become a problem. Drayshawn Kendrick also had, I believe, a 32-yard passing completion, which is also problematic. I don't exactly remember when that one happened, but I think that was in the third quarter as well. So that one's through the air, but I mean, mainly on the ground. I mean, Coons had a 20-yard scramble. Kevon King had multiple big rushing plays. Xavier Evans had multiple rushing plays as well. So I mean, yeah, it's just not a good look for Rutgers. But I mean, I guess the concern is if a team like Norfolk State can do that, Iowa can do that, obviously, Miami, Ohio. If they can find their way through the air and on the ground, especially on the ground, because that's Iowa's bread and butter. I mean, what's Iowa going to do against this Rutgers defense where they can run the line of, maybe not own the line of scrimmage, but they can hold their own against Rutgers on the line of scrimmage. If they're getting 5-6 yards to carry, I mean, that goes into their play styles completely. So, I mean, even if they're not allowing big plays, which, I mean, I guess they have, but even if they don't do that, like, it just is concerning, because if Iowa starts, getting chunk plays on the ground, I mean, that obviously opens up their passing game. But I mean, it could be a big problem for the Scarlet Knights to, have to contend with that for the entire contest.
Yeah, especially when it comes to like a size mismatch. You know that Iowa's going to want to run it right down our throats. With the initial loss of Doug Blue Eli to start the season, Rutgers was really kind of fishing for an answer at defensive tackle. Zaire Angor, Keyshawn Griffin, they do have experience, but their experience does not. It's not anything like spectacular.
Right.
They haven't shown to be a star defensive tackle, and to consistently go up against an Iowa team that wants to punch you in the mouth, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
They showed it here. They gave up chunk running plays to a lower tier FCS team. I don't know. I just want to know, like, what element of this was just them not taking their opponents seriously, because, everyone's like, "Oh, you should take every game seriously." Well that certain teams don't take certain games against certain opponents seriously.
Yeah.
Do you really think that Ohio State players are coming into a game against, whoever, against a group of 5 team? Ohio did like give them a fight, but do you really think Ohio State players are going into a group of 5 game like, man, I don't know how we're going to pull this one out today, or man,
Yeah,
we're
I'm
going to
sure
have a fight
they
today?
weren't sweating it, but I feel like after Ohio, they almost beat Rutgers, they beat West Virginia. I feel like Ohio State players were on alert. Like
I
I mean,
guess I
I
really
hope they were.
shouldn't have said Ohio State, but my
But yeah,
point
I
is,
get what your point is. Like,
I
they're not.
don't think maybe what point was this just them not like was just there no urgency on the Scarlet Knights sideline?
I mean, maybe like you can get a feeling that they like took this game for granted in a way, because I mean, they basically did whatever they wanted. They onside kicked it, like, it just didn't matter, because like, the size difference and the talent difference were, I mean, I would say even more so the size difference, but also the talent difference were both so much more in Rutgers' favor that it didn't really matter what Norfolk State really did. Like, there was really no chance for them to win the game. But I mean, like I did mention, like, chunk plays can happen, and like I think I pointed out something in the film study that their running back. I don't know if it was the one that ended up making the carry, but they have a lot of shifty guys on that team, and I was like, yeah, that can absolutely. It doesn't matter if it's a Big Ten defense, that can absolutely create one big play. Now, doing that for an entire drive, entire game, it's going to be really hard when you don't have, you don't have the blocking, you don't, you know what I mean? You don't have the size, you don't have like the skill really to like be able to hold up and manage that. And even if your skill players
Then you
somehow
take a team that does.
exactly, it's a different story, because like a Norfolk State didn't have the size or the blocking or the skill, and even if their skill players somehow did, like if they still again didn't really have the blocking. But for Iowa, I mean, they have the blocking, they'll have better skill players, better running backs. I mean, again, it's their bread and butter. We've seen it from them. And I mean, I think another thing that's makes it a little bit more concerning is I was watching the UMass Iowa highlights last night, and suddenly Mark Gronowski's starting to throw the ball a little bit too. So we can't exactly just. I was saying maybe they could just stack the box and just kind of take a risk, and maybe it's not so
Yeah,
much
but
of a
I
risk.
don't like. Okay, I understand that UMass is technically not FCS, but
They're also really bad. Like I
they're
mean,
great.
they're probably
They're probably get beat by an FCS
yeah, they
team.
did actually get beat by an FCS team in Bryant, who like I don't even think that team is anywhere near like a good FCS team either. So that's just not like it's not really a good look for them. But I
Well,
mean,
what I'm saying is, I'd like, in my opinion, them playing UMass was like them playing U Albany again.
yeah. In fact, like they beat Albany 34-7. They beat UMass 47-7. So like Albany might have probably might have been a tougher test for them. I think Albany actually kind of held them in check for a little bit more than UMass did, and that might just be because UMass is worse. or it could be because I was starting to gel a little bit because in the first game against Albany, Mark Gronowski went 8 for 15, 44 yards and touchdown. He really was struggling. He had cramps going on in the game, but he also just really was not really able to throw the ball. And I was just like, that's just not good. I mean, it's an FCS team. Like in this game, if you can't throw the ball, it's just not going to work out this season. Or Xavier Williams had a really good game on the ground, as expected, 122 yards and a touchdown. Then they go into Iowa State. And then Gronowski, a bit better, still not great by any means. He had 13 for 24, 83 yards and a pick. I think he had like a rushing touchdown as well, which that's another thing Rutgers does. I don't think he's like super mobile like Navarro or those guys, but he could definitely use his legs as an option. He's not like a statue in the
He's not
pocket.
a statue, no.
He's not gonna, if he has an opening, he'll at least be able to score from. You know what I mean? I'd be like really surprised if we didn't see him use his legs at least a little bit. I don't think he's gonna like start scampering.
They might even game plan for it because look how we have been at stopping a mobile quarterback.
Exactly, like really, really bad. I mean, so yeah. Anyway, I mean, I guess that's besides the point. But like, and even I mean, yeah, it's just they might try to use his legs because Rutgers has really, really struggled with that. But I guess my point being, Albany or Iowa has been getting better each week, or Gronowski has been getting better each week in throwing the ball. And I mean, he's come from FCS, South Dakota State, really good FCS team. He's thrown for over 10,000 yards in his career. But I mean, getting used to maybe the level of competition, stuff like that, maybe, a new team, new system, like all of that can like have an effect. But he's gotten better over time. And I know like UMass is a weak opponent, but he put together 16 for 24 passing yards, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns. He hit a deep ball. He had a 20-yard touchdown pass. And then it's the special teams in that game. I mean, their punt returner had a punt return for a touchdown. He was just like a Caden Wetchen, like he had a 20-yard touchdown run. So they were like, that guy was all over the field. But I mean, my point is, like, I would not expect Gronowski to just, not be like a passer again just because it's the Rutgers defense. And honestly, like the Rutgers defense isn't even like, that good, if we're being honest. Like they're probably not going to be good enough to completely rattle Gronowski out of his shell anyway. So I mean, like I would be surprised if, I mean, I guess my original thinking was, okay, maybe you take a risk and you stack the box and you kind of like dare Gronowski to beat you, but you at least have to respect like what he can do through the year. I mean, you can't just take it for granted that they're not going to do anything, and especially with all these gaps in coverage that Rutgers has had. Iowa might, game plan for something like that. Even, they might run the ball a lot. They'll also probably mix it in with play action. They'll try to find the holes in our coverage. Like, this has been like a known issue now. So I mean,
Iowa. Yeah, it's been a known issue, but I will say, as much as the defense is still a concern, you can't deny that it has gotten better week to week, like Shiano has said.
It has definitely gotten
the
better.
Problem is, are we progressing fast enough to win the games that we need to win? Because it's all well and great if the defense is ready for the last 6 games of the season. The problem is the last 6 games of the season come against Illinois, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, with a couple other like winnable games mixed in. So yes, the defense might be ready for that, or might be at their peak during that time. It's not going to matter
because like we have the toughest opponents on the back end of the schedule that are
So they need to be ready like now,
right? Because those games, I mean, like those offenses are going to be like on another level, and then those defenses are also going to be like on another level. So even our Rutgers offense that's humming, like they might also be challenged a bit. I mean, we've seen what Ohio State's defense has done to just about anybody. We've seen what Oregon's defense and offense have done. Like, yeah, those are going to be different tests. But, I mean, this starts the pivotal stretch of the schedule that we've been highlighting since the summer, or Iowa, Minnesota, Washington. We've, like, talked about it, like, the no end, I feel like, on this podcast. And now it's go time. So, yeah, whether the defense is ready or not, like, I think even Shiano said something like that, whether it's good enough for the Big Ten or not, like, it's going to happen. So, I mean, they kind of have to be good enough.
We got to be ready. We got to be ready.
But, yeah, I mean, in terms of Iowa, like, I guess my point being, like, they got to respect the pass, at least to a certain extent. Like, I don't know, like, how good Gronowski's going to be against the Rutgers defense versus UMass's defense. Not going to be, like, a free-for-all kind of thing where you kind of have all the time in the pocket and your receivers are just going to get open. It's not going to be like that. But at the same time, like, Rutgers defense isn't exactly, like, a showstopper. So, I mean, I feel like, he's going to – if he builds off the last week, he should be able to move the ball through the air at some points. But again, I was gonna definitely rely on that ground game and mix it in with some passing. But if the Rutgers can't stop either of those things, then it's gonna be a long night for them. So hopefully,
However,
hopefully
there
they
is
can
one
get that together.
scenario that you're not really considering here. You know, what if Rutgers offense
Just like
forces
outguns them.
Iowa's offense to start being pass happy? You know,
Yeah,
like
like we're getting so far ahead, like then Iowa has to play from behind. That's definitely a
that's what we need
possibility as
for
well.
complementary football. We need the offense to get moving and like move you know,
Yeah,
sustain drives, score each time, throw the ball well, pass the ball, run the
right,
ball well. We
right.
need the offense to be picture perfect because we don't know if we're going to get that from the defense, and we need
Yeah.
to make up for that weakness. I would say.
Right. I mean, yeah, we kind of know where the offense this year's the better unit, and we know that they're going to be productive and consistent, and the defense we're not really too sure. Like we've been mentioning, there's been gaps in the past defense and the run defense, which is again particularly concerning given who are playing next week. But I mean, if the offense can force Iowa into a situation where they're, playing from behind, that makes them more pass happy. And then if Iowa again is weaker in the pass game than they are in the run game, it takes them out of their element a little bit. Then that's when your pass rushers like Eric O'Neal, Bradley Weaver, guys like that, then they can pin their ears back. They can start getting after the quarterback. It definitely changes the outlook of the game. I mean, like. So I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like with the Giants too. Like they have a good pass rush. They're kind of saying the same thing. You don't get to use that pass rush if you're not playing from ahead, because once you're playing from ahead, it puts more pressure on the opposing offense. So if Rutgers can kind of do that, you put more pressure on Iowa by playing from ahead. Then
Mhm.
and then Iowa's gonna have a tough time. They might
Well,
have a
that's
tough
going to throw
time.
all the weight on Gronowski's shoulders.
Shoulders. Then he'll have to beat us with his arm, and I don't know
If
if
we could
I was
force that
comfortable.
scenario, I would take Rutgers any day of the week because
Yeah, in that
I
scenario,
think Gronowski's good. I think
he hasn't
maybe
proven it on this level yet.
no.
So
No.
right, but Caligman is kind of has. So like I mean, yeah, based on what I've seen out of the two offenses, I would take Rutgers in a shootout, like in a heartbeat, over Iowa. I mean Iowa, sure, like I mean they beat UMass like pretty handily, but against an Iowa State team, they only scored 13 points. So I mean, maybe Rutgers, fall somewhere in the middle. But I would say if Rutgers, even if Rutgers scores like I've been saying this like for like a week now, but like if Rutgers even scores high 20s to 30, like I feel like that should be a win for the Scarlet Knights. I don't see it really a realistic scenario where Iowa, should be able to get to that amount. I mean, unless something like really horribly goes wrong with the defense, but I mean, like I feel like if Rutgers gets to the high 20s to 30s, like they should be able to win that game. And I mean, yeah, I mean we've heard it on our podcast and other podcasts. Like this is a year where Rutgers doesn't have to try to like out Iowa. They don't have to be more, the even better team on defense and special teams, which with all the the greatness Rutgers has had in those two phases, like I was done just as well, if not better. They've had better defense that has, been able to take it a step further by getting
Well, they've done it
takedowns.
better,
Yeah,
definitely.
well, the Iowa defense has also gotten better too. But I mean, in the past, like Iowa's defense was, even a step up from Rutgers. Vaunted dark side defense. They would get takeaways that would often be the factor, the swing factor in the match. They'd basically hold Rutgers to nearly like nothing in terms of points on offense. The special teams, I mean, both punters were outstanding, and the whole 9 yards that goes with that. I mean, who knows? Like a block kick could be in the picture here too. I mean, like those things like Iowa's punt returning, Rutgers blocking punts. I mean, you never know which play is going to show up in a game like this where it's supposed to be like a one-score game. So that could be a factor. But I mean, yeah, I would take Rutgers in a shootout if Rutgers can play, force Iowa to kind of try to keep up with them, and they might try to do this because they should try to do this given the way that their team is set up this year. But for the first time, it's not like Rutgers is like a slightly weaker version of Iowa. They're kind of their own version of themselves, and Iowa's also a little bit of a different version with probably a slightly better quarterback than we've seen in the past. But how they measure up to a Rutgers offense, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I don't think they're quite that good in the pass game, but then their defense, they could have an advantage. They could have an advantage in the run game too versus our defense. So it's just a matter of can Rutgers out, can they get those points on the board? Can they make Iowa play from behind? And, if they can do all of that, they can move the ball and run the pass. It's going to put pressure on the Hawkeyes. So that's really the key to the game right there. If Rutgers can get Iowa in that situation, it definitely helps their own defense too, because then they can start rushing the passer, and they'll have an easier time with that.
Yes, I agree 100%. But before we get too much ahead into that Iowa game, we do have to talk about some storylines that came out of last week's game. Starting with, I guess, the two big ones. First of all, Ian Strong did not play last game due to, now it wasn't announced as an injury, but if you look at Shiano's press conference, it sounds like an injury. It sounds like an injury that he sustained in their game against Miami of Ohio, something that he could play through without much of an issue. And then, but something they wanted to be cautious about. That's what I got from listening to his press conference. Of course, Shiano will just never say he's hurt,
Right.
Tell us what it is.
Yeah.
But so he sounds like he's going to be listed as questionable for the game against Iowa. And the other big possible loss we could have for the Iowa game is that Tyler Needham left the game against Norfolk State with an injury. It is currently undisclosed what the injury is and how long he will be out for. It sounds like they're still determining what exactly went wrong. This is very detrimental to Rutgers if he can't go, because we've already lost 2 offensive tackles to start the season. So if he can't go for whatever reason, that's just a detrimental loss for our squad. And then CJ Campbell also left the game against Norfolk State early. He was taken into the tent. Looked like he had on his right leg, I want to say. Looked like he had something on his right leg. Or at least that's what he was limping when he was going into the tent. It's hard to say. Again, we don't know the status of his injury. I don't feel like that one is quite as big a loss because of, Campbell is talented. There's no debating that. But, Antoine Raymond looks just as good. Jashawn Benjamin has been hyped up for a while. That one,
that one can be overcame, I guess.
That one can be overcame, but the other two, that's really making me starting to sweat.
I know, especially with Ian Strong, the catches.
Honestly, I think the
biggest one is obviously it's Tyler Needham, because of because of the tackle situation. I mean, obviously Dante Chin, who they put there, is out for the season. Ryder
first of all, it starts with Ryder Langsdale. He was supposed to be a starter. He's out.
Well, I don't know
Sheehan has a great training camp, takes over that role as a starter, and now is out.
Right. I know. It's Langsdale, who was in contention for that starting job, was out. Dante Chin, who ended up becoming the starter because of other injuries on the line, out. And then Needham now, who is kind of a more a veteran, and he's kind of been in the role, and they put him in, and now I don't know what his status is, but obviously banged up. We may not be able to go for the Iowa game at the very least, and we don't know what how much further. I mean, he was able to get off kind of under with some help, but on his own power. So, but maybe it's not season ending. Hopefully, but even then, it's going to be hard for him to play on a short week against Iowa after that kind of thing. So they're going to be down. That's 3 tackles. They're going to be down.
And that raises the question: who takes his spot?
Right. Well,
Eva saw time.
He was the one that got in when the injury happened to Needham, and I think he played pretty admirably. I think he had a really high PFF grade as well over there. So I mean, he played pretty well at that spot. So I would assume he would be the next man up, I guess. To use a coach speak word, but I mean that really is what it is. It's next man up.
But who goes in the rotation then? Because you're not just going to play one tackle all game. I doubt you will. I guess that puts Amlin in the rotation.
Could be Amlin. Yeah, I've heard Shiano mention both Giwa and then Justin Cesare from New Haven.
Cesare.
He's probably going to be the number 2. I haven't heard anything about Amlin, even with all the injuries. So, but now he's probably going to also be in the rotation as well. So he could be a number 3 potentially. So they still have guys. I mean, there's a reason you go out and get.
Well,
We
do you
talked,
see how you remember how hard they hit the portal? They
I
were
know,
like,
like I was like, whoa, they got like, they got a really good starting line. Then they got like 3 different guys from lower levels. Then they got this guy from Illinois. I was like, they have a lot of depth, and now it's like they need all that depth. I mean, look at this, and now their depth is basically, what could end up becoming their game rotation. Like the players that we thought would just sit on the bench, like those are probably going to be the guys that are going to be called upon, and that's why. I mean, you have to you have to hit the portal hard. And I mean, like all that, the talk we had over the offseason. I mean, now these are the guys that are going to be in the lineup potentially for a big game. I mean, against Iowa now, like the tune-ups are over. And I mean, with all respect to Ohio and, I mean, in Miami, Ohio, which are kind of more than tune-ups, but I mean, like in a way, I mean, especially the way Ohio pushed us. But now, like we're in Big Ten play. There's no tune-ups. Like Rutgers is probably not. We're not going to waltz into SHI Stadium anymore thinking that we're going to win the game by 2 touchdowns. There's no more like pretenses, a win's a win's, a loss a loss. There's no, like there's none of that stuff. There's probably not going to be a lot of downtime during games, which is going to be good for us. But I mean, I guess my point is like our non-conference slate is over. Rutgers has escaped it, but now like throwing in this tackle rotation, for a game like this, assuming Needham can't go, I mean, that's going to be a rough one. But again, next man up. I mean, there's a reason you get these players. You don't just expect them to be bad and you get them anyway and just hope for the best. Like they're obviously good. They obviously produced at their level. And I mean, they should be able to produce at a higher level if you're getting them like that. That would be the expectation. So at least to some level of like, of degree, maybe it's not quite as good, but like at least, like respectably close. And then in terms of strong, that one's also rough. I was seeing like on one of our articles, someone was mentioning, because they also like made that really vague and stuff like that about what exactly happened. Like apparently like Richie O'Leary from the Night Report said it was like he tweaked his ankle against Ohio, and that's the one that's what's holding him out here. So I don't know, but I saw this on one of our articles, so I'm just going based off of that. But there's really not a lot of clarity. Like Shiano obviously made it seem like there was just, he didn't even say which game, but he just said it was just some sort of thing that happened, and they thought they were good, but they thought he was good. He thought he was good, and he wasn't. So who knows? So, but he said he's not certain that Strong will play for Iowa. So, but the assumption is it's precautionary. I'm ruling it as a week-to-week basis. My assumption would be that he should be good to go, but no guarantees there. So obviously, if you lose him, you're down to KJ Duff, DT Sheffield, Ben Black, which is a pretty solid trio in its own right. But obviously, you want to have a guy like Ian Strong who's come down with tough catches. You want your best receivers out there. We talked about the plan for this game for Rutgers to try to go downfield and really put pressure, and they're going to need Ian Strong to do that. So I mean that would be. They're definitely going to need Ian Strong to do that. And then on top of that,
we're going to need DT to take a step up.
Yeah, if they don't have that, yeah, exactly. DT is kind of like the real speed guy, the burner on this offense. I mean, he also dropped a couple passes that has to be cleaned up. But in the case that Strong cannot go, I mean Sheffield will definitely have to step up and alongside KJ Duff. But I mean, obviously you want Ian Strong to be in the lineup, and hopefully he is. Hopefully he can get that issue worked out. I don't think it's anything so major, but hopefully it was just precautionary, giving him an extra week, and hopefully he'll be good to go for Iowa, because Rutgers could use their 3-headed monster at receiver. And then at running back too. I mean, like CJ Campbell in the backfield. I mean, that's another that's probably the most overcomable loss, if that's even a word, or like the loss that.
I mean, you
Rutgers
never want to see a player come off the field injured, and you never want to see your own team come off the field injured. However, with the stacked running back room that Rutgers has, with the players behind them, that one I feel like because the other two, if they're not good to go, that throws our ability to win against Iowa in very large jeopardy.
Yeah, exactly.
But I feel like our chances don't take too much of a hit if Campbell can't go.
Yeah,
I feel like Raymond is going to take it.
Yeah, Raymond's been like the lead back for us. He's, I think, gotten the most carries. He's been really just really good up the middle, like whatever he goes around the side, like anything like behind his O-line, like he's like the lead guy. Campbell's been all getting like a lot of touches too. He's probably the second back on the team, and obviously coming in from FAU, he's been a good transfer. He's been very effective. He's a little bit more like of a finesse back, where it gives a different element to the offense, which is nice. Raymond's definitely kind of in that mold. Mananga is a very power heavy back. You definitely want to have both of those on your team. And then but then Deshaun Benjamin too. I mean, like I feel like he really picked up the slack in the Norfolk State
Well,
game.
Deshaun Benjamin's also like is
Yeah,
also
he's
like a
like a
finesse back.
junior. Right? Oh yeah, he's also more like exactly like he has good cuts. Like so he kind of almost does similar like a similar style of play to like Campbell in a lot of ways. And the coaching staff's always been really really high on him. He's also been here for a few years. Like he's never really been like gotten the shine because obviously he's been behind like guys like Manungai and like stuff like that. And he's kind of been on there, but he's always like kind
Well,
of had that impact,
if
though.
you
So
remember his freshman year, he got some good touches. He had a
yeah.
great game against Temple, if you remember that one.
And even like Northwestern, I think like out of the first game, like he had
Yep.
some touches. He had some big carries, and that was right away. And now he's and then last year as well, like he was in and out kind of, but like he had an
Well,
effect.
last year he redshirted.
Oh, last year, yeah. So, but the year before he had a big impact like right off the get go, and then
Yep.
last year not so much. But now he's a redshirt junior then, right? So he
Yes.
yeah, so I mean, but this could be like a big year for him. But I mean, I guess in the absence of CJ Campbell, like he could kind of play that role of the number two back, like you said, more of a finesse back when Raymond's more kind of the bruiser. But Deshaun Benjamin, I mean, he had 12 carries, 68 yards, 5.7 yards per carry, and a touchdown. Raymond had 16 carries, 79 yards, 4.9 average yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. So Benjamin would probably be the number two. I guess now this begs the question if Campbell can't go, like who would be the number three? But we saw like Ed Guerrier in the game late. We saw
Could be
Terrell
Gary.
Mitchell. It would be I think it would be Guerrier. He got a lot of touches. It's not really a situation you want to have to rely on like a guy like that, but maybe you throw him in and he picks up a first down. Like you never know. Like, but you're probably gonna need like three guys. Just like the receiving room, you're gonna have to make someone else your receiver three. You're gonna have to make someone else your running back three. And for the running backs, probably like you won't see all three of them on the field at the same time. You might only see one of them on the field at the same time. While the receivers, you probably will see all three of them on the field at the same time. But in terms of the running backs, I mean, Antoine Raymond, Deshaun Benjamin will probably get the lion's share if Campbell can't go. Ed Guerrier probably the reserve in that game. So I mean, but yeah, like I said, I feel like that, like we've both been saying, that one's probably the most overcomable death or injury loss, even despite how talented Campbell's been for this team, just because of the other horses we have in the stable. Well, tackle definitely like they're really starting to run low on depth. Receiver, I mean, as much depth and talent they have, I mean, Ian Strong is a huge piece of that passing offense. And if those two can't go, yeah, you're right. I mean that's it's going to make it very very difficult, much like more difficult for Rutgers to execute that game plan and be able to beat Iowa because that really takes the top off of like that pass protection, those downfield shots, like all those kinds of things. It's going to be harder to do all of that without having your best offensive lineman in the game and definitely without your best receiver. So but yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate. I mean, with the injuries, like we saw what happened last year on the defensive side of the ball and how that impacted the season. And you definitely don't want to see the season crash down before it even begins. I mean, they are off to a 3-0 start. There are winnable games in Big Ten play, but this is a big stretch, and you definitely don't want injuries to derail. And if they lose, they lose, but you don't want injuries to be the reason why they would lose. So hopefully, it doesn't affect Rutgers too much, or the players, they are healthy. If not for this week, then hopefully soon, and hopefully Rutgers can put together a good game plan that will kind of mask as much as possible to kind of limit the damage that was that's been done basically.
Exactly. Especially with those two, I feel like if you lose them, like that throws a lot of our game plan out of whack.
Yeah.
So definitely going to be a lot for them to overcome. If they lose them, we don't even know. There's
We
a
don't
chance
know.
that
It could come out and
we could be
play.
sweating this for nothing. But that's the beauty of football, right?
Yeah, especially with
Um,
college and the ability report will come out like the day of the game. We'll probably get some, we'll see on Twitter and stuff like that if they're out or in, and it'll be like very last minute. Like we might even be in the stadium by the time we find that out. So again, we don't know. Like we don't know, but the other team also I guess won't know. So I mean that's yeah, that is the beauty of it. And for Iowa, I don't know what injuries they're dealing with, but every team deals with injuries. It's always next man up. So it's not, you can't make excuses, and you know what I mean. Like you got to be ready to go.
no,
I
you
mean,
really can't.
Yeah, exactly. You can't. Yeah, you got to be ready to go. And Iowa's played Iowa State. I mean, they're definitely going to be ready to go. They played a very physical team, another team with a really good defense, a ranked team. So they're coming in having played like even tougher competition than we have. So I mean, this is probably going to be like their second toughest game so far of the season. So I mean, they're going to be rolling in here, and obviously the very slight favorites. It's basically as close to as a toss up as you can get it to. But at the same time, like they're going to be coming with the intention of winning the game, and obviously, so are we. So injuries, we'll figure out what the story is. But Rutgers, obviously they have to put together a good game plan where they can limit the damage being done if that's the case.
Absolutely. And injuries aside, get to the stadium, get there early, be loud, wear
Yeah,
black.
7:30 light show. It's always a good one. Yeah, be loud, wear black. I'm sure that stadium is going to be absolutely packed. I'm
It
so
should
excited.
be.
It should be, and I'm
Because
sure it will be.
and I've been making this joke for the past few weeks, and I'll make this same joke again. Highlighted, circled, underlined,
In black and
pointed
red.
at with arrows on the calendar.
Biggest game
This
of the
is
season.
if you're going to go to any game, this is the one you go to,
Yeah.
because this is the one where we see what
Like what
almost
Rutgers is made
all
of.
of the rest of the season is going to look like for us.
Yeah, because it's hard to get a gauge on Ohio, Miami, Ohio, Norfolk State, like how good Rutgers could be in the Big Ten. Like this is where, you can see that. And obviously on top of all that, I mean, the light show, the band, like everything is going to just be so much, even if you're not a football fan, it's just going to be such a great atmosphere, such a great time. It's going to be so much fun and, win or lose, but hopefully we do win. But in terms of the actual football being played, it's going to be a very competitive game. And yeah, like you said, like we're going to get a gauge on what the rest of the season looks like, where Rutgers really stands. And it's also the last home game for a little while because after this, Rutgers goes on the road. They play Minnesota the following Saturday. They have a bye. They go to Washington, and then so that's three straight weeks that we won't be in SHI. So definitely come out for this. I mean, the blackout game,
Mm-hmm.
they do it really well. It's going to be amazing, incredible, and of course, it's a big game, big opponent. So I mean, but then the next time that we get to SHI Stadium, it'll be an even bigger game and an even bigger opponent in some ways because the Oregon Ducks will come to town for homecoming, but that's about a month away, so we shouldn't get too into that. But I mean, I guess my point being, we have some big home games coming up against big time opponents. This is probably our most winnable. It's going to be the most fun, most exciting, probably the loudest, and the stadium's going to get. And last year pushed us to a win over Washington in a game where we arguably got outplayed in a lot of ways, but executed better. And it was the first
And
time
there's
we
no
beat.
reason that can't happen here. So
Exactly.
be
That was the
there.
first time we beat them after they'd beaten us in the non-conference when we played them back in the day. And Iowa's been like a thorn in Rutgers' side. They're 4-0 against us. A lot of these games haven't even really been that close. But this year, Rutgers is looking to change the perception around them, get to that next year. Like this is like if Rutgers wins, it could be a. It's not necessarily like a field storming type of win, but it could be a program defining type of win that Rutgers has made their presence known in the Big Ten. And more than any other game, I really want to see that because I don't think a win over Minnesota or Washington would get the same respect. I really don't, just because Iowa's Iowa. So I mean,
And it's also not home.
and it's not home exactly. So but yeah, I mean, but if we can beat Iowa, they've always been a tier ahead of us, and if we can close that gap on them, it would just be really good. Even though they're not going to be a ranked team, even though we probably wouldn't be a ranked team by beating them, it's still gonna. It would mean like a ton for the program, and on top of that, it would take a very important win off the table for bowl eligibility, and Rutgers would be 4-0. It would kickstart. What could be a good stretch? I mean, momentum's a real thing in college football. You lose to Iowa, and suddenly there's jeopardy of losing the next two. And if you beat Iowa, maybe you win one of the two of the next ones. Like it could be momentum for the Big Ten season. At the very least, it would hopefully get us over the line later in the year. But I mean, a win over Iowa would be seismic for not only this season, but just the program and where people perceive it. And it's going to be a big game and a lot of fun. So hopefully, for all those reasons, we do get that win. And I cannot wait for Friday.
Yep. 100% agree.
Yeah.
But football isn't the only Rutgers sport that is making some highlights. There's a couple non-revenue sports that are doing pretty good for themselves. First of all, Rutgers men's soccer beat Penn State 1-0 in their Big Ten opener. It's always good to beat the Nittany Lions, even if it's at anything.
Exactly.
But and I'm really going to butcher this name. Joshi Shelb has
I want to say
been
it's like
Joshi
Joshai. I think it's like Joshai Shell, but I have no
Joshai. Okay,
Joshai. I think so.
that's
Or
just off of me
Joshai
reading
Shell.
it, but he's
Yeah.
man, what a season he's had so
What
far,
an
right?
absolute stud! I mean, like he's just been incredible, and he had the game-deciding goal as a 1-0 victory, obviously for Rutgers. And he was the one who ended up scoring, and it was not really a penalty shot; it was just outside the box, but he he was able to kick it over the goaltender's head off the crossbar and in, and he's just been absolutely sensational, like this entire season. So a big win for Rutgers in the Big Ten. They're 4-1 on the season, or 4-1-1 with the tie, and they're 1-0 in the conference. And obviously, the conference wins are going to be very important for the standings in the conference in the Big Ten. But I mean, as to Jashai Shelb, hopefully I'm pronouncing that one right. I
Stud.
mean, I think that's how you do. He is an absolute stud. That's a sixth goal of the season, 19th of his
He had a
career.
hat trick against William and Mary, I
Yeah,
believe.
hat trick against William and Mary in the first 22 minutes of the game, which is just
Yeah,
like absolutely. That's just not a hat trick in general is very hard, but in the first half of the first half, he had like a hat trick, and like that's just like something else entirely. So, but he currently like leads Rutgers to Big Ten and is tied for first in the nation in goals scored. So I mean, he also has 13 points, 28 shots, 14 shots on goal. He paces Rutgers and the conference in that as well. So I mean, Jajai Shelb is like definitely a star in the making here at Rutgers, and I mean that could be huge for this season as a whole. I mean the men's team for soccer, I mean has had its moments definitely, but this could be like a big year for Rutgers men's soccer with a player like that on our side.
it could be a pivotal year with somebody who has the potent scoring power that Shelb does. Um, Flipping
Yeah,
over to the women's side of things, they draw their first they draw in their first Big Ten game of the season against Michigan State, 1-0. I mean, oh my,
1-1.
1-1 draw, 1
Yeah,
1.
1-1
Yeah,
draw.
they draw in their first Big Ten game against Michigan State, 1-1. But I guess they shouldn't. These two aren't really quite the highlight of the non-revenue sports weekend, as number 18 field hockey took down number 16 Yukon um, in the second ranked matchup of the season. They fell initially to number 11 Princeton, but were able to take one against the Huskies. I believe that one was on the road, right?
Um, I think both of them were, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, no. Well, the Princeton game was actually at home earlier today. It was a 1-0 loss in overtime. The Friday, they beat UConn on Friday in Storrs, Connecticut. In overtime, that was a ranked win over the number 3. It's a 16 team in the country, 3-2 overtime win against the Huskies, and then a 1-0 loss against the Princeton Tigers in Piscataway. So, yeah, two ranked games. They lost their previous two ranked games against number 11 Syracuse back then, number 11, and then number 3 Virginia, a 1-0. Two neutral site games at Ohio State's campus against two of the ACC's better teams. And then yeah, UConn they got the W, Princeton a loss. So the team is now 3-3. But I mean they've also played a lot of ranked opponents, so you have to keep that in mind.
Three
Rutgers
and three,
themselves is
but
also
one
ranked.
and three against ranked teams.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to keep that in mind, I guess, when you consider where the team is. I guess it's like a tough non-conference schedule, but obviously it's also a ranked team going into
Yeah.
that. So they also have some easier games against New Hampshire, who's not a ranked team, on Friday. Then they have number 19 Monmouth at home on Sunday. That's interesting. That's another ranked opponent in state. So hopefully Rutgers can string some more
That's
wins
gonna be a
together.
fight.
Yeah, Monmouth, that's a very even matchup too, because Rutgers I think is like 18 or something like that. I believe, yeah, 18. So and they're 19, so that's like it could go either way. They're very like evenly matched. And
They're
then
calling it the war down the shore.
the war down the shore, yeah. Rutgers, Monmouth, and field hockey. It's over here, but yeah, I mean, Monmouth isn't far at all. I mean, like it's like 45 minutes, like near Long Branch, like very close to even like where I'm from and everything in Edison. So very
I'm
close to
closer
this.
to Monmouth than I am to Rutgers.
That is true. Exactly. It's not. Yeah, they're both pretty close. I mean, I think Rutgers was going to have Monmouth in football, but the COVID season, obviously.
2020 that got
Yeah,
canceled.
I'd really love to schedule an in-state team. It would be a lot of fun. But
Because
for
that's
both
the only one you can
programs,
schedule, really. I don't think you can schedule Princeton.
no, I don't think so. Because I don't think it would count for bowl eligibility. That would be really cool if we could, because Rutgers and Princeton was the first game, and it would be really cool to see some sort of reenactment, even though it would go like very differently, I guess, than the 6-4 win. But I mean, yeah, to bring back a historical rivalry, it would be really cool. I mean, I wish there was a way we could get around to that, but I don't know, because I remember UConn played Yale a few years ago, and the UConn team had not won a game in a while. They were really, really bad, and they beat Yale, and it was a close game too, in a way. So that was kind of an interesting one that college football fans might be able to appreciate. But I don't want to stray too far off topic, but because this is field hockey. But yeah, a couple of games here for a ranked field hockey team, 3-3. But I think the big star of the show actually isn't even field hockey or either of the soccer teams. It's volleyball, and that's maybe not something you'd imagine saying after, if you followed the volleyball team last season. They were like 6-25. They were like really, really bad, but this season they're off to a 7-2 start on the season. They lost 2 of their 3 first games in tough 5-set matches against Liberty and Buffalo. Since then, they swept their last 2 invites. They beat Dartmouth, Sacred Heart, and both in straight sets, by the way. In the Sacred Heart invite, they beat Long Island University 3-1. And then they come home, their first home matches, sweeping Rider, another in-state school there, 3-0. St. Francis, PA, 3-0. New Hampshire, 3-0. A lot of these games weren't even close. They were winning these sets by double digits, like some of them at least. The last one against New Hampshire was pretty competitive, but some of the other ones, maybe not as competitive. But either way, I mean, Rutgers volleyball was just definitely on their game. The volleyball, it's a good start. Again, it's kind of like the same thing with like football. It's like the non-conference. Like, you don't know how to exactly judge that. Like, none of these teams are ranked. The Big Ten has some really good volleyball teams. Nebraska, Penn State, who won it last year. Nebraska this year's number 1. So the schedule is obviously going to get a lot tougher. Wisconsin, Minnesota, they're both ranked. I mean, there's a lot of ranked teams on the schedule: Purdue, Penn State. So, I mean, in conference play, but at least that means that, maybe they should be a little bit more competitive this year in terms of volleyball, hopefully. I don't know, have enough knowledge to just say that outright, but I mean, like, based on the non-conference, they already have more wins than they did last year in 9 games. They're 7-2. Stacking wins, and we'll see how they do in Big Ten play. I mean, volleyball is definitely a very fun, exciting sport in its own right. If you've ever watched it in men's or women's or at the Olympics or anything, and college volleyball is definitely the same. I mean, I've seen games on television, like at Nebraska, at some of the bigger places where they'll sell out their basketball arenas, for volleyball. And yeah, I mean,
They'll even sell out their football stadium. Wasn't that the whole thing?
they did. They sold out Memorial Stadium for a volleyball game, because that's how big volleyball is at Nebraska. Just like, I guess, football is. They have had a long sellout streak there too. But yeah, they had a outdoor volleyball game over there, and I don't know. I mean, maybe these are things. I mean, these are definitely things that you could check out. Like, I mean, there's a lot of home games for volleyball at Jersey Mike's Arena. I mean, there might have to be something that maybe I might want to check out, especially if they play like a good team, like when they play Nebraska and the Scarlet out, stuff like that. So who knows? Obviously, I mean, definitely before basketball season gets started, but volleyball looking really, really good. They're 7-2 on the young season. Field hockey 3-3, but again against ranked opponents. And then women's soccer, their 4th consecutive draw. I don't know. I mean, it felt like they might have had the win, but it's becoming a little bit of a concerning trend, like drawing 4 times in a row. Not a lot of scoring going on in there. There's 0-0 against Air Force, and UConn, 1-1 Princeton, 1-1 Michigan State. So the goals are just not finding themselves, but hopefully they can get that turned around. Women's soccer has Minnesota on the road next. Then they have Indiana. They have a road trip to LA with UCLA and USC. Men's soccer goes on the road. They take on Northwestern next, sometime next week. I think that one's on Thursday. And yeah, and then they also have another non-conference game against Fairleigh Dickinson the following week, and then they have Ohio State, Monmouth at home, and then they're going to be in full Big Ten play mode as well. So definitely a lot to look forward to. But yeah, I mean, I think the big surprise and the highlight would probably be volleyball at 7-2. I mean, that's definitely like a team that is going to have more eyes on them, and also field hockey as well. They've been ranked for like many seasons now, and they're always in the mix.
Yeah, they're showing that they're showing consistency with how good they are, and they're slowly becoming one of Rutgers' more consistent programs, possibly even up there with wrestling. The
Yeah,
wrestling, I would still say, is a step above because they're consistently in the top 10. But it
right,
is nice to see another Rutgers program consistently being ranked and consistently
right,
being
exactly.
considered one of the class of the country. But
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
yeah, it is just nice to see. It does
Definitely.
look like that's all we have for you guys today, though. Unless you had something that you wanted to add really quick at the end here.
I mean, like, I guess we basically covered it. I mean, I would say like, check out these smaller sports on campus. I mean, like, if you have the time,
Oh yeah, if you're on campus, you
a lot
should
of
check
them are
out.
very cheap, or if not free. Like I think the soccer games, I think you can get in for free. I think volleyball, they have tickets; they're not that expensive. Even if it's just like for one game, field hockey too, I think that might be free. So I mean, yeah, I mean, like these teams, like it's very exciting to have like a lot of different teams that are good, and like we covered it with rowing last year. They were very good. Like there's more than just football and basketball, and especially sometimes with the struggles with that, like some of these other things don't get highlighted, and I feel like that's why like I want to and we want to cover them as much as possible, especially when they deserve that
And
shine.
go to a wrestling match. Those are
The
fun.
wrestling, yeah, those are a lot of fun too. I mean, that's going to be another one, but yeah, I mean, those sports definitely deserve respect. Their athletes work just as hard as the other ones. They have very busy schedules, all of that, and they're producing on the field or the court or whatever. So I mean, go check them out. But I mean, I think the big focus this week is Iowa. Like you said, be there early, wear black, get loud, get excited.
Be in
And
your
yeah.
seats by 7:30.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a big game. We've never beaten them. I really do want to beat them. I hope we obviously get a win. It could be program defining. It could change our perception on the national scale, and it could also boost our odds for bowl eligibility. But like even more than all of that, it basically does set the tone for the rest of the season, like you mentioned. And I think that's the important thing. Like we saw Rutgers, take down an Ohio team that's pretty respectable. But how good can they be in the Big Ten? I mean, we're about to find out.
Yep. So that like I said, that pretty much does it for everything that we have here today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for so much for sticking around to the end. I believe now that we're almost at 25 episodes. I don't think we're quite there, but we really appreciate the support that we've gotten so far and can't wait to see where we take this podcast in the future. With that being said, be there on Friday, be early, be loud, wear black, and as always, the bells must ring.